the
What a way to start the live stream. Hello! This is Alyssa Jean's Reviews, and you are watching a What If Killmonger rescued Tony Stark. Our discussion on that episode, it's season 1, episode 6. And joining me and yelling at his cat right as we get on here is Don Willi. How you doing, Don?
I am absolutely fantastic tonight, and you can call me the Williams.
Oh, I apologize. The Williams. Yes. And then over here we have Mark Monger.
Hello, everyone. Yes, good to be here. Good to talk about this episode. And some what if. Let's get into it.
All right, we'll start with our overall thoughts, and I'll start with the Williams. What did you think of this episode?
So, as someone who really liked the original Black Panther movie, I thought this was a pretty decent twist on not only that, but also Iron Man. I mean, Iron Man started the MCU, and here we have a similar but very different take on the whole affair, and I like the fact that it didn't just retread everything that happened, at least with Iron Man. For the Black Panther thing, yes, there were a lot of similarities, but also a lot of differences too, and I do like the fact that, like What If has been doing a lot of basically, hey, we're going to have a take on what if the bad guys would have actually won, at least to a certain extent here, right? There were a lot of people who, I'm going to say in the Black community, who empathized with Killmonger. I mean, listen, I remember seeing on Twitter a lot, hashtag Killmonger was right. I don't necessarily agree with that sentiment, and I think that that the overall message of the movie Black Panther itself, especially towards the end when they decided to open up to the world, was about everyone coming together, putting your differences aside, and being able to work as a collective in order to move forward. But here, this was basically, hey, what if the guy who not only hated the people who took his father away from him, but also who just hated people who didn't look like him in general, actually, got to succeed. Now obviously, and we're talking spoilers here for anyone watching. Towards the end, we see that they're going to expose the nefarious things that he's done in order for him to succeed. But then the question still remains at that point: would it be too late to stop it? We all know that vibranium is virtually indestructible, especially if you really know how to work it as the people of Wakanda, their scientists or whatever. So at that point, I mean, because if you remember, towards the climax of Black Panther, one of the big things was, we got to stop these weapons from getting out, because once they get to the war dogs out there, it's pretty much a wrap. There's not going to be anyone who's going to be able to stop them, at least not here on Earth. So I definitely think that the way things played out, I like the twist on things. I don't necessarily know that I want to Killmonger to win, though. So that's what I've got those are my initial thoughts. I'll turn it over to you two to I guess to flesh things out.
Mark, how about you?
So I know we're gonna go in order, go through the order of events of the episode as we always do. But I do, to give my overall thoughts, I do have to jump to the end because the ending colors my opinion of this episode. Because this episode felt incomplete to me. This is the first episode of What If where the credits rolled. And I was like, "What? That's it!" Like I was shocked. Like I was expecting to get more because they kind of left it in the cliffhanger, and I don't know if they're going to come back to it maybe in that final episode of the season, or they're going to do another one in season 2, or if this is meant to be just an open-ended ending. And they were
Mark, I can interject that we do see Shuri and Pepper in the mid-season preview for that's a scene that we haven't seen yet.
Okay.
So it looks like they're going to come back in probably the finale when everybody comes back. We're assuming. So it looks like we're going to see them again. If that, I don't know if that helps or not because I don't know what they're going to show us.
Regardless of whether or not they finish it or not, it still bothers me that the episode was incomplete because they're going to bring back a lot of other people too, like Captain Carter, T'Challa as Star-Lord. And those episodes felt complete to me, where even the Peggy Carter one, because it had that sort of cliffhanger, oh, she's in the future, but it felt like a complete story, where it seemed like the story was not complete. It seemed like it was like Ross is about to like bomb the shit out of Wakanda. Wakanda didn't seem worried about that, but I mean, is their arrogance justified? And then of course Shuri and you just said her
Pepper.
name. Pepper, yeah. They were coming up with the plot to stop Killmonger. It wasn't gonna work. So this was kind of like it seemed to me it felt like it ended mid-story. Like I didn't get enough. Like I needed more to form a complete opinion on this episode. And since I didn't get my opinion is it felt like an incomplete story. So I can't really say, I guess it seems like just a setup for something. I don't know. And to be fair, and I know everyone that disagrees with me on this, I felt the same thing about Infinity War as well. But anyway, I'm just weird like that, I guess. I don't know. But so the episode itself, it felt like Killmonger was actually way smarter in this universe than he was in our universe. He came up with a much better plan, which is why it succeeded through using Tony Stark and getting the aid of America and causing a war between America and Wakanda. So that was a very interesting scenario to me. But again, it felt too singly focused on that. It didn't really... I was hoping to get into some of the consequences of Iron Man never existing, because it seems like that's going to ricochet and have some other consequences. But maybe if they ever finish the story, maybe they'll get into the consequences of that. So I thought this episode was okay. I don't know, it just felt incomplete to me.
Yeah, I would also say that it was okay. Certainly not a bad episode by any stretch of the imagination. There was a lot to enjoy here, but I just didn't. I don't know. I could describe it the same way that I described last week's episode of Lower Decks season 2, episode 5, when I did my review, which was, I mean, it was fine. It was fine, but I definitely agree with you that it was incomplete. Though that wasn't really my biggest beef with it. My biggest beef with it really was that, I don't know. It was interesting that Killmonger did have a different plan. And we'll get into that a little bit. I did like the Iron Man stuff in it. I also agree that we could have seen the consequences of lack of Iron Man a little bit more. That would have been nice. But I did a lot of the things that they did in this episode were very interesting. But to me, it still was like beat for beat Killmonger's story, but just different things happened. It still ended up in the same place that we end up like halfway through the Black Panther movie, because you're right, it's an incomplete story. So with Killmonger on top, and whether or not it ends up in the same way as the Black Panther movie with Killmonger losing, we don't know, because T'Challa is dead. And you're right, you make a good point. They kind of leave you in the middle of the story, but I feel like I'm comparing it more to where this story ends is like, halfway through or 3/4 of the way through the Black Panther movie when Killmonger is on top of the world. That's what it feels like. And it basically, he gets to the same place in a different way. And it was an interesting way. I liked how they incorporated the first Iron Man movie into it. But I don't know. It wasn't that, I feel like the better What If episodes start in a similar place and then go off just in a completely different direction, like go off in a wild direction, like the Doctor Strange one, just go way out there. And even the Avengers being killed one. And here, the other issue I have with it is that moment. I always talk about the moment from episode 1 where the Watcher goes, "There it is." Here, it seems very obscure. We don't really know what the difference here is. That Killmonger was hired by Obadiah Stane to kill Tony Stark. We do know he was in Afghanistan. They do mention that in the Black Panther film, that he was actually in Afghanistan. So that tracks. We know he was already there anyway. But the difference between this universe and our universe is he was still in Afghanistan, but now he's hired by Obadiah Stane to kill Tony Stark. How did that happen? I don't know. So it's like the gotcha moment, the there it is moment is like really obscure. Like how did that come to be? I have no idea. But there were some cool things. I don't want to just totally bash it because there was a lot. As we get into it, I'll talk about some of the things I really thought were cool. But yeah, overall, I thought this episode was fine. it was decent. I don't know.
There was two things I wanted to say in
response. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think one thing actually, but the two differences between because I totally agree this is pretty much Killmonger's plot but told from a different perspective. But the two major things, and I'm not disagreeing, I'm sure you're aware of this, but I just want to specify the two major differences is that T'Challa is dead. And Tony Stark never became Iron Man. And so it seemed to focus on the T'Challa being dead part well enough, but it seemed to neglect, and we already talked about this, of course, but it seemed to neglect the Tony Stark not becoming Iron Man. I just wish they would have focused more. Because other than that, if you neglect that and focus too much on Killmonger's plot, then you're right. It's just Black Panther again, but for just different events to get to the same place. And so that's why I feel like they should have focused more on lack of Iron Man, because that could have been their spin of making it different than Black Panther.
They do in subtle ways, which I'll talk about when we get into it. But yeah, the overall greater impact of there not being an Iron Man, they didn't get into it all. I want to jump into the chat and say hello to Brandon, who joins us every week, and Darren is here with us this week from these reviews.
Darren.
Hello, Darren. Darren says more kids on the playground. So this is a continuation of what Darren said, I think in episode 2 when he was here live with us. He was talking about how the What If episodes kind of play like it's a bunch of kids on the playground coming up with them. So he says more kids on the playground. Oh yeah, well, what if Killmonger saved Tony? They'd be all best friends, but he'd just be using Tony and get him to make some anime mess. Yeah, they were.
I think that's the most cynical view of this episode.
Yeah.
I mean, well, listen, if I can interject real quick.
Go ahead.
You were saying that you weren't sure how Obadiah Stane actually hired Killmonger, but remember, he didn't hire Killmonger. He hired the 10 Rings. It just so happened that Killmonger was doing deep cover in the 10 Rings at the time. And that's how he discovered that they were going to kill Tony. And it was, through through that, that's how he was like, oh, okay, well, uh, it was like, oh, this is my way in. Good. I saved Tony from getting assassinated by the Ten Rings. I get in close with him. I expose Obadiah Stane. I get in good with him. I tell him about vibranium. I get into Wakanda. Boom. So this was it was a genius plot. In terms of okay, well, I'm gonna take this rich billionaire who's also someone who I'm trying to think. He's a weapons manufacturer, and he's always going to be looking for the next big thing, right? And like Tony had said later on, both of them are gearheads who were trying to do right by their dads, and so he was able to tug on Tony's heartstrings with, oh yeah, we kind of have the same story going on here. We're like, yes, I'm more of a soldier than you are, but at the end of the day, we're both, orphan geniuses trying to make the world better. And because of that, that's how he was able to get in with Tony. But again, it's not that Obadiah Stane actually hired him. He just, he was doing deep cover work, and it was like, oh, okay, here's my way in.
Okay, I misunderstood. I thought he said Obadiah had hired him directly. But either way, what I said still stands. It's very obscure where the change was in this universe. So if he was undercover in the Ten Rings, is that the difference? Did he decide to go undercover for the Ten Rings in this universe and didn't in our universe? Or maybe he did, but he just didn't come up with that plan in our universe? It is still very obscure where the there it is from episode 1, the Watcher, there it is, where that moment was. Did he not go undercover in the Ten Rings, and why did he go undercover with the Ten Rings here and not in our universe? It's still very obscure. It's very off screen, and I still don't know where the difference took place.
I mean, I get it. Mark?
I personally don't mind. I don't need to see the there it is. But I mean, because you can say it's kind of a similar thing about the Doctor Strange.
I didn't say you need to see it. You just need to know where it was. I could point to where it was for every previous What If episode, even if you don't see it on the screen. Like a couple of them, you don't see it on screen. Like the Hope Van Dyne died a couple years earlier. That was really where it changed.
Yeah, but that the specific moment.
Yeah.
But I think the Doctor Strange one, that's a bit more like he dated the what's her face, but how did that you don't know the specifics about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I just saw it was different. Like I was okay with that one. Okay. I don't really remember that one clearly enough to make a good case.
I mean, I'm okay with this, knowing that he was just undercover with the Ten Rings, and that was the difference.
Yeah.
That maybe in our universe he wasn't undercover with the Ten Rings.
Yeah, I don't know. It just still seems very vague and obscure to me. But anyways, let's see what Darren. I think Darren's got some more to say here. Also, this all felt like Killmonger's perfect plan. Everything went right. There seemed no challenge for him. It was just us wondering if he'd be caught. I agree, and I was actually planning to kind of talk about that as we went through. I thought it was too predictable that he was going to win, and I didn't really like that. It was totally too inevitable that he was going to win.
Yeah.
So, and it bothered me and made me sad a lot.
See, that's why I needed that ending where they get the better of him. So without that ending, I feel like because that also has it stands. It's and I talk about this a lot in other movies. It's here's his character plot straight up, and that's it. And that's not interesting to me.
I agree. All right, let's get into the episode though. Okay. So I do like it when they parallel an MCU film and then show something different. Unfortunately, there was a trailer that was released a while back where they showed this whole opening scene. I was just talking to Marc off screen before we started about Shang-Chi, how the first act was kind of ruined for me by the trailers because they show almost the whole first act in the trailers. And then I was like, maybe I just need to stop watching trailers. I mean, really, I think they need to do a better job of not ruining things in the trailers is what I really think it was. But so that whole opening scene, that's an exact parallel of the whole opening scene of the entire MCU with Tony Stark and the soldiers and then all of that stuff. I had seen before, but I still thought it was I still liked it. I still thought it was a good way to open up the episode and on the show Killmonger throw the bomb and save Tony, and now the best of buddies. But when I saw that in the trailer, I was thinking kind of along the lines you were, Marc, that I thought maybe we would get a little more what if there's no Iron Man in the world. So we don't really get into that. Nevertheless, good opening scene. This kind of sets the stage well. And I like some of the Watchers introductions. I liked this one where he shows us the different highlights of Tony Stark in our universe. So I don't know. So far, I'm feeling okay about this episode at this point. Before I want to dive into his whole relationship with Tony Stark. Before we do that, do you guys have any comments on the first part of it? I'll start with Marc.
No, not really. I mean, it was a good, as you say, it was a good what if setup. It was, and this was the premise, and the Watcher's introduction was interesting. It was interesting seeing Killmonger foil Obadiah Stane, but then you realize later that's for his own purpose. And I love how they sneak in the Pepper Potts, like, knowing he's being too nice, this is too convenient, and so it was a good setup for what was coming.
Don, anything to add?
I definitely I mean, you know what, the one thing that was kind of distracting for the first few minutes, the actor who was playing Tony Stark, only because he was doing his best Robert Downey Jr. impersonation, and it was like, but it's not the voice, The actor that they got to play Obadiah Stane actually did a pretty good impersonation of Jeff Bridges. Like, I actually had to watch the credits, and I'm like, wait, was Jeff Bridges in here? I'm like, oh no, it wasn't. So, shout out to that actor, and unfortunately I didn't write down the name. My bad. But so I did like that it started off similar, but another distracting thing, Killmonger just picking up that bomb and throwing it. I'm like, yeah, as far as I know, he doesn't have the Black Panther juice just yet, so I don't think he should be able to, pick up a bomb and just throw it like that. Just a little distracting. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Yes, I know this is what if. This is a comic book series. It's sci-fi, whatever. But still, it was just like, okay, come on, man. He just picks up the bomb and just throws it. I'm imagining that thing should be minimum 50, 60 pounds. Minimum.
Don, he's been spending a lot of extra time in the gym preparing for this
listen,
plan.
I understand. Shout out to Michael B. Jordan, his trainer,
really
and all
working
that.
out. Yeah.
Shout out to Michael B. Jordan, his trainer. He's been putting that work in. I understand, but it was still one of those things that's just like one-handed. Huh? You're just gonna throw a missile like a football. Interesting.
That's true. As far as the voice goes, I don't know if it was the same guy who did Tony Stark in that Avengers episode, but I thought he sounded a lot better in that Avengers episode. Maybe it was a different guy this time. But I thought Tony Stark sounded better in that other one than in this one. I kind of agree with you on that.
Well, with the voice acting, I actually wasn't bothered with it at all. To me, it's less distracting, even if they're not doing a perfect job. But if they try to sound like the character, the actor who played them, it's the Black Widow one who didn't even attempt to sound like Scarlett Johansson. That really threw me off because I was like, this isn't Black Widow. Like, who is this person?
Yeah, she sounded bored the entire episode.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay. Really? Yes, Nick. Okay, I'm here. All right, shoot the stingers now. Like, okay.
Yeah.
So this didn't bother me as much, but there were times I was like, yeah, clearly that's not Robert Downey Jr. But it was like I was willing to go with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't bothered by it, but I do see where Don's coming from. He was at times sounded like he was trying too hard to do a Robert Downey Jr. impersonation.
I mean, it's not that it bothered me. It was just distracting when it was like, okay, you're not Robert Downey Jr. I understand that this is supposed to be, Iron Man 1 esque, but yeah, you know what? Maybe do it just a little different because you sound nothing like him. So what? Don't try. Just be you, and make you work the best that you can.
But see, that's what I'm saying. I actually disagree. I barely noticed because at least he was trying. But if he made no attempt to sound like him, that's more distracting to me, like the Black Widow thing. But
anyway. Brandon in the chat, I don't get your reference. Are you talking about like the old? He says I'm reminded of the classic Batman movie line. Some days you just can't get rid of the bomb. Are you talking about like old school with like Adam West? Didn't they make a movie out of that?
Yeah, that was Adam West Batman.
Yeah,
in the movie. Whatever. You don't remember the scene? They're at the dock. He's got the big, old school tiny bomb. He's running around like he runs into it's like a pack of nuns. The lady pushing a stroller, a band. It's like he's just like some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
I know that I saw all the old Adam West stuff. I'm sure that I saw that like a long time ago, but I don't remember it.
I don't think I ever saw that movie. I used to watch the show, but I never saw it.
Yeah. It is a classic because it is I'm gonna say it like this. For as ridiculous as the Joel Schumacher movies were, I see what Joel Schumacher was trying to do. He was trying to make things in that vein, but he spinal tapped it and was like, oh, this amp goes up to 11, and it's like, no, you weren't supposed to turn it up to 11. So like the Adam West one was over the top ridiculous, and then Joel Schumacher was like, now how can we make it more ridiculous? Yeah. So
all right. Thank you, Brandon, for our Batman side trip. All right, let's get back into the episode. So he starts developing this relationship with Tony Stark. Killmonger does, and it's I think a much more easy to manipulate Tony Stark. This is a Tony Stark who has not gone through that transformation, who didn't have that time in a cave in Afghanistan. Tony Stark in a cave. So he didn't.
A bunch of scraps.
He didn't go through that trauma. Sorry, I had to put that in there. He didn't go through that trauma. So he's still a very arrogant, very conceited billionaire, which makes him very easily manipulated. And some other videos pointed out, I actually didn't catch this on my own, but once other videos I watched pointed this out, that he drinks a lot more. He's always has a glass of whiskey in his hand. He's much more of an alcoholic. And he was at the very beginning of the Iron Man film too, drinking whiskey. But so the theory is that the experience he went through in Afghanistan kind of made him less of an alcoholic when he returned, whereas that didn't happen. So he's still drinking all the time, and it makes him someone very easy to manipulate, in my opinion. And the whole sequence of seeing all the parallels to Iron Man 1, I enjoyed a lot of that. How they were doing like the whole training sequence was very reminiscent of how they were filming it and stuff like that. Very reminiscent to Tony Stark doing the trials with the Iron Man suit and filming it and all of that stuff. There was a lot of parallels that I really liked. But the whole thing was very ominous to me because I could see where it was headed. Kind of the point that Darren brought up earlier. It's like there was really no challenge for him, and like I could see that he was going to win, and it made me sad. I saw where it was headed with Tony Stark. Tony Stark was not going to be long for this world. Neither was Rhodey, which, by the way, I do appreciate that they did the same thing that they did with the Incredible Hulk when they retconned Mark Ruffalo into it. They retconned Don Cheadle into it.
Oh, right. That's right.
Even though he wasn't in the original Iron Man. But I appreciate that. It would be weird to have the other version of Rhodey in this. Just as it would have been weird to see Edward Norton. So I do appreciate that. But anyways, like I could kind of see it going. And I didn't necessarily see that T'Challa was going to get killed. And honestly, I thought he was killed way too easily, personally. So that just kind of added to the whole, like, I don't know, this is too easy for Killmonger. And it made me sad because I knew it was coming that way as well. But anyway, I talked about it a lot there. So you want to comment on any of that, Don? Back to the relationship between him and Tony or anything else that I was just talking about there?
Yeah. So, you know what? You're absolutely right. You know, because Tony didn't go through the same transformation, have that kind of epiphany, we now see, instead of someone who's like, you know what, I need to get out of the weapons manufacturing business because it killed American soldiers. He's like, no, we got to build bigger, better. You know, you bomb everything. Everything goes. And it's like, oh, man. All right. Pretty sure I know a couple of senators in real life who've been like, yes, that is an American patriot right there. So, yeah, it's interesting to see how he stays the course, and not only stays the course, but decides that he's going to go full steam ahead. And shout out to Matthew Ross in the chat because he brought up, yeah, in the comic books, Tony Stark is an alcoholic. There's a few stories, especially the Demon in the Bottle story. He's raging alcoholic, winds up losing his company and all that. So, yeah, and then if you noticed in Iron Man 1, he doesn't drink after he comes back from Afghanistan. All of the drinking that he did was pre-Afghanistan, you know, and when they showed the flashbacks. Iron Man 2, he fell off the rails, but you know, it is what it is. But it's one of those things where he found someone that he thought was a kindred spirit in Killmonger. And again, like I was saying earlier, you know, Killmonger was able to play on that whole thing because remember, Tony is still someone who's dealing with the whole thing of stepping out of his father's shadow, and also the whole thing of daddy didn't love me either. You know, this is still pre-Iron Man 2, before he sees the film reel of his dad saying, yeah, you know, you will always be my greatest invention, yada, yada, yada. So, you know, there's no Nick Fury intervening saying, hey, you know, me and your dad were cool, and he actually did love you, and here you go, here's something so you won't screw up his entire legacy. And as far as, you know, as far as the way that they decided to flip things here, you know, Pepper the entire time is like, look, I'm not digging this. Something seems off here. And Killmonger is able to just find subtle ways, of saying, "Oh no, but we can do this, we can do that, yada yada yada." And then going back to the training montage, yeah, very reminiscent of Iron Man 1. I was expecting that instead of the robot falling apart like that, that he was going to wind up, hitting Killmonger, and it being kind of reminiscent of when Tony fires up the thrusters for the first time when he goes hitting the wall. So, yeah, again, interesting take on things, but yeah, I can definitely see what you're saying about it seeming to like things coming too easy to Killmonger in terms of being able to have his plan come together. But I don't want to ramble on, so I'm going to turn it over to Mark.
All right, so I must be naive or easily manipulated. I mean, when I first heard of the premise of this episode and I was watching it, I thought Killmonger was actually going to be a good guy.
I actually thought that at first
yeah.
too, Mark. But as I was watching it, I was like, "Oh, okay." But
yeah, but it wasn't like I was still like, "Oh yeah, he's probably on the up and up," until Elite like killed Verdi and T'Challa, and I was like, "Oh, okay, he's still a villain." And then it made a bit more sense. Honestly, I think it might have been a little bit more interesting if they did because it would have been a bigger what if. It would have been a bigger parallel universe, and there would be bigger differences rather than just repeating the plot of Black Panther. But whatever. I mean, it makes sense for his character, and they would have had to explain it more why he was different. That being the case. Now, the thing I will say about Tony Stark is that he didn't have the experience in the cave, but I did notice the similarity. He still had a change, a near-death experience, and he still changed, just not as great. Because he said, "Oh, I saw that the bomb with my family's name on it and my company's name on it," which is also what he said in the movie. So that part of it still stayed with him, but it just wasn't enough. So he still had wanted to change the company, which is what was pissing Obadiah Stane off. But it wasn't. So he did still have a change. It just wasn't as great, and he still, the drinking or whatever, all that stayed the same. And he was still the apathetic, I think is the best word, apathetic playboy. He didn't really care as much. So, and I just think it was kind of the fact that he was able to be so manipulated and killed shows that he was still lacking that experience. That experience woke him up because the Tony Stark we know from our universe would never been able to be so deceived as easily.
It looked like he did figure it out there.
He caught him that one like right before, but of course Killmonger managed to just kill his machine and kill him.
But I agree. But I agree with you. Yeah.
So,
I'm sorry to interrupt.
It's interesting, but it's all good. It's interesting, but I think it could have been more interesting. It was kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't really think much about that, but you're right. I think it could have been more interesting if Killmonger was a good guy. When I very first saw that trailer, one of the things that crossed my mind is, are they going to go, what if Killmonger was Iron Man?
That would have been interesting.
which could have been interesting. And it doesn't take much, like just a change to his backstory. Just a line or two about what happened in his backstory. Whereas here, it seems that his backstory was the same as far as I can tell. So of course he's still a villain because he still has the same motivations. All right. Any you guys have anything else to add on the Tony Stark portion of it? I want to start jumping into Wakanda.
Oh, well, we can talk about his death.
Whose death? Tony Stark's death?
Tony Stark's death, because
go ahead.
I thought it was interesting the dialogue where Oh God, where Killmonger says the difference between me and you is you don't know the difference between me and you. And it's because he was like, "What? We're kindred spirits. We both have daddies and whatnot." But he's kind of neglecting the fact that he lived a life of privilege, and Killmonger was brought up poor, and of course the racial differences as well. And so that I thought was a poignant line, like saying like you don't. And I think the wealth gap and the privilege difference was like a huge factor there, and that's kind of why I like the character of Killmonger. And so I did appreciate that line of it. It's like the difference between you and me is that you don't know the difference, which it does show how arrogant Tony Stark is and how he takes his wealth for granted. I mean, he's brought up in a wealthy family. He lived a whole life of privilege. So that I found that was a very interesting scene.
Yeah, good point. Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, and the other thing too is that Killmonger said we're not fighting the same battle. You know, Tony is protecting American interest, for lack of a better term, and Killmonger's like, nope, I want black people to be on top, pretty much. It's like, yeah, we're not fighting the same battle at all. This is there. It's like, yeah, we're both in war, but if you think that we're allies in this, oh no, you have not been reading the room whatsoever. And that's the thing, like that was really the first time that they actually pinpointed that no, he's still the same guy with the absolute same motivations. Before that it was kind of like, okay, well, what is he doing this for? Because he doesn't have to do any of the things that he's doing. So it's like he he's the COO of a multi-billion-dollar company. Like, go to Wakanda for what? He doesn't have to do any of that stuff. But it's like, no, I don't care about the money or the position. It's like, no, this is just a piece to put me where I want to be. And when he talked about the scars, and he was like, each one of them is for a kill. I was hoping that you wouldn't make the cut. Yeah, it was kind of it was a little disappointing. I mean, but he should have known that Tony was smarter than the average bear. I mean, he was the one that he went to Tony to get Tony to help him build his drone, because he was like, yeah, I couldn't figure out the AI interface. Tony's sitting there with Jarvis, his own personal AI interface, and he's just like, oh yeah, cool. No, I got this. So I don't understand exactly why he underestimated that Tony would have some sort of backup. Maybe he just thought, hey, you know what? This guy thinks I'm cool, so he'll never spy on me. But doesn't mean he didn't program Jarvis to not spy on you. So yeah, it was a shame that Tony had to go out that way. But okay, is it me, or did it seem a little odd, the placement of the spear? Like when he dropped the glass at first, like when Killmonger throws a spear at him, drops the glass, I'm like, oh man, I'm expecting the thing to be like through like the middle of his chest. And then you look, it's like, it really looks like it's like going through his shoulder or something. And I'm like, okay, is he gonna pull it out and stick it in his chest or something? Then he just kind of like, nope, just jabs it more through his shoulder. And even when he's hanging there on the wall, it's kind of like, I'm like, oh, really? All right. I mean, maybe there's some vital artery or something that he hit that I wasn't aware of. Because I literally just watched it before we started this. I watched it for the second time to see if maybe I missed something. And I was like, no, that's definitely through the shoulder. How was he dead?
I agree, and I was like, is he not dead? But then I knew he was dead because the story demanded him to be dead. But like, I felt the same way. Like, would he die from that? I mean, it did throw me off a little bit too. But I also want to point out, you mentioned how he said he had got a scar for everyone he cut, or for everyone he killed, he got a scar, and then Tony Stark didn't make the cut. Get it? He has scar. Tony Stark didn't make the cut. I don't know. I thought it was an intentional pun. I don't know, but it was kind of corny. Anyways, so let's get into the Wakanda of it all. So this is where it really just seemed like, oh, okay, well, now we're leaving Iron Man 1 and we're getting into Black Panther, but it's taking place 8 years earlier. Shuri is like half the age. I don't know how old she looks young in this. I don't know if she's still a kid, but equally as smart, it seems. In fact, Shuri and Pepper are the only ones who are other outside of Killmonger who are smart in this episode. Leave it to the women to get things done. But I don't know. This is where like there was a lot of the same beats. He kills Claw, then he comes into Wakanda with Claw over his shoulder and says he has a gift. I was even unclear if that had happened yet in that time period, but where Wakanda even had a thing against Claw. I guess they must have already. I thought that was a little later, but I don't know. I'm a little confused on the timeline. So maybe that already happened. But he offers him his gifts. He shows his lip. So a lot of the similar beats, except of course, as Don mentioned earlier, T'Challa is dead. As I said, I think he died a little bit too early or too easily. Although maybe Don can clarify this for me a little bit. I always was kind of confused on this. So in this episode, as well as also I would say in Captain America: Civil War, T'Challa has the Black Panther uniform on. He's got all the different, whatever fancy devices that Shuri has in it and all that stuff. But he doesn't have the Black Panther strength, right? Because they made a big deal about it in the Black Panther film, which was after Captain America: Civil War, and obviously would have taken place if it had ever happened after these events. So he doesn't have the Black Panther strength at this point. Is that right?
No, so apparently, okay, so what it seems like is, T'Chaka got a little too old to still run around in the Black Panther suit, so he passed down the mantle, not of like Black Panther officially, because I think when you're the king of Wakanda, you're also Black Panther, but I think you can pass down the Black Panther mantle as sort of like a protector role. So T'Challa actually did have the Black Panther strength, but he just didn't have like the official title as king.
But he didn't like drink the potion or whatever, like the whole ceremony until in the film, till after he beat up back that challenge and won the kingship, and then he like drank the little potion. They did the whole ceremony. And that's what I thought. That's what I thought was supposed to give him the strength. But then I was like, but he already had it in Captain America Civil War. So I was always confused by that.
Right. So no, if you remember in Black Panther, before he has the fight, they tell him, okay, in order for you to basically get in order for this fight to be legitimate, we have to strip away your Black Panther
that's
power.
right. You're right. That's right. I do remember that now.
Yeah,
so he did have it here then too as well. Okay, that makes sense. Well, then he definitely was killed too easily.
Well, no, but remember, here's the thing though, and I remember watching a video on this earlier, and they talked about how the whole sonic vibration thing was what Killmonger was able to use in order to kill Black Panther. And it was kind of a reverse of how T'Challa killed him in the movie, because if you remember, when Killmonger and T'Challa are fighting in Black Panther, he tells Shuri to turn on the like the underground train system, and she was like, "Well, yeah, but then you'll be vulnerable because of the vibrations in there." And he's like, "Well, yeah, he will too." And that's how he was able to stab him through the chest, because uh when he passed through whatever that little sonic shield was that held the track together, that's what basically got the nanofibers and the vibranium to separate long enough for him to stab him in the chest. So it's seeming as though basically they took the device that they had in Iron Man 1, because if you notice, when he was using the sonic gun on T'Challa and Rhodey, that he kind of had like the like, the veins going up the side of his neck, same way like Tony when Obadiah Stane did that to him in the house. So basically, this was just kind of a souped up version of that, also mixed in with the Jericho missile. So when he spinal tapped it and turned it up to 11, boom. So I'm pretty sure if we saw what it looked like, because remember, they didn't show what T'Challa looked like after he got hit with that. There might not have been much of him left.
I don't know. The one thing I was gonna say is when the Black Panther first appeared in this episode, I did think it was T'Chaka, because I was like, wait, wasn't T'Chaka running around there? Because this is 8 years before, wasn't he the Black Panther back then? I don't know if I'm remembering that incorrectly.
I don't know if they ever said when that transfer took place, because in Civil War, which was about 2016, so 8 years after this, it was definitely T'Challa, obviously. But I don't know if they ever clarified when T'Challa took over.
But I don't know, maybe I'm remembering Civil War wrong, but I thought T'Challa didn't take the mantle of Black Panther until after T'Chaka died.
Well, I think more in a official capacity, because I think like that's what I'm saying. Like, I think the way it goes is, if you are the king of Wakanda, that you are like officially also Black Panther, but I guess he can kind of pass it down. Like if you remember in Thor 1, where Odin basically tells Thor, he's like, "Hey, okay, cool, yeah, I'm still the king, but you're going to be king as well, and we're just having a ceremony for everyone to know, hey, yeah, this is the king in line."
All right, so I guess I just always misunderstood that about Civil War. So I guess I just like it didn't get that, but that's fine. I mean, I'm not saying that the show was wrong. I'm just saying I misunderstood. So when the show happened, I was like, "Oh, it's T'Chaka," but when they revealed it's T'Challa, I was like, "Okay, that actually makes a bit more sense." He's probably a bit too old to be running around like that.
I mean, well, listen, think about it. Look, we are Americans. Our forefathers fought against a crown, so we don't care about the minutia of who's king and who's the prince, and whatever. Take all of the monarchical stuff back over across the pond there, okay?
Well, especially the way it's been presented all throughout my life, with this boring prince, the British royal family, I could never care any less about. But anyways, go ahead, Mark. Go ahead. Let's get back on topic.
I forget what I was going to say now. What were we talking about?
We're talking about Wakanda. We're talking about T'Challa's death.
Oh, I remember. I wanted to talk about Claw. Like, that kind of pissed me off. Okay, so he's an idiot in this universe, too. I mean, it makes sense. Why wouldn't he be an idiot? Because that always bothered me, how he was, like, so naively going along with Killmonger when it's fucking obvious that he's going to kill him. It reminds me of, like, the show 24, when the terrorists would, like, buy something, or there would be, like, someone who's selling something to the terrorists, and they'd always be like, "Where's my money?" And the terrorists just go, like, "I got your money right here. he killed him. It's fucking obviously gonna kill him. And so that's what I get from Claw every time, both in the movie and in this. I'm like, of course he's gonna fucking. He's like, oh, come on here, mate. I'm like, he's gonna kill you, you idiot. But I suppose that that character is just that stupid. But I mean, he was like hunting like Wakanda and getting all his vibranium. Like, it seems like he has to be somewhat smart. It seems like he's dealing with shady people this whole time. And it seems like he should be smart enough to tell when this guy is obviously going to turn him and then kill him. But anyway, I mean, that's just the problem I had with Black Panther that was transferred to this episode.
All right. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. At least, yeah, 24 did that like 100,000.
Oh my god! Yes. It's like, why in that universe? Like, why would you sell anything to a terrorist? Obviously, he's gonna kill you.
I got you, buddy, right here. Anyways, we're kind of going off the rails here. Anything that either of you have anything else to add about Wakanda? And I was talking about how I kind of thought this is where we're really getting into the story beats that are very, very similar, and how he's able. I didn't really talk much about how he's able to manipulate T'Chaka, which makes sense because I think T'Chaka wanted to believe that his brother's son would not hold a grudge against him. He's still, in his mind, I think still wants to think of them as family. So it made sense how he was able to manipulate them. But at the same time, I just did feel like, as I'm watching this, like, it's sad. It's hard to watch this. It's painful because I know where it's going. And like, I always actually feel that way about anything where I know where like a villain is manipulating people. But I love Shuri. I always love Shuri. I actually really always love that character, but I love her here too because she, like, you could tell she knew what was going on, and Pepper as well. But you definitely could tell that she was the only one thinking critically about any of this.
Well, the one thing I will say is I was surprised. Like, I kept expecting Killmonger to just kill T'Chaka, and it's interesting that they went to the manipulating route as well. I think that what makes it different from the movie a little bit. Because the movie, it seems like because he just wanted to kill and take control. So I thought it was going to kill T'Chaka in some way. Not maybe outright, maybe have a manipulative way that gets him killed so he can take control or whatever. I mean, he still could because the story's incomplete. But I was kind of expecting that to happen.
Well, I think because in the movie it was T'Challa, and he knew he wouldn't be able to manipulate T'Challa that way. But with T'Chaka, he could use T'Chaka's fondness for his brother against him. Sure. I think he knew that he could manipulate T'Chaka, but he would never be able to manipulate T'Challa like that.
No, that's absolutely correct, but I still thought maybe he might just kill him anyway. Yeah. So, but no, it does make sense. Like, because if T'Chaka was like starting to not be manipulated and become a problem, I think that's when he would kill him.
Yes, very, very true.
If I may.
Go ahead. Jump in.
Yeah, I think that two reasons why he was able to manipulate T'Chaka the way he did. One, because there was no T'Challa around, and he missed his son. And two, now, listen, at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure he's like, well, can't have another son right now, so we need a male heir for the throne of Wakanda. And oh man, my brother's son that I just kind of left in the ghetto just showed up with an army, and he's but he's here saying he's down for the cause. Oh, I guess he must not know that that I stuck my panther claws into his chest. So that's probably what it was. He was thinking, oh, okay, he must not know that I killed his father. Because otherwise, why? It's like, if I knew that, if I was T'Chaka and I had any suspicion that this man who just showed up with a bunch of mechanical drones is like, oh yeah, I'm your nephew, and yeah, I know that you killed my dad. Oh no, get him out of here ASAP, or put him in jail or something. There's no way in hell, if I thought that he knew that I killed his dad, that I'm just gonna be like, oh, you know what? What's past is past. Come here, nephew. Your family. Like,
Well, see,
no,
I mean, but that's why I expected him to kill T'Chaka, because he does know, and I thought he would just go flat out revenge and be like, well, fuck everything. He killed my father. I'm going to kill him. But maybe that's a down the road plan.
yeah. Well, he seems a lot less angry in this one than he did in Black Panther. Like in Black Panther, Killmonger damn near seemed like a raging maniac. Like he's a lot more subdued. It's a lot more cunning here. Whereas in Black Panther, he showed up. He was a bull in the china shop. He's like, look, I'm here to fight for the throne. Screw you, screw you, screw you. I deserve to be king because your dad was a jerk off that killed my dad. So and then left me to my own devices. So yeah, I'm here. Bring it on. Let's fight. Whereas here it's like, oh nah, listen, I know what it's like to lose somebody, you know. And remember, he flips the whole story and says, "Oh yeah, his dad died from gang violence," right? So if he's putting out that story to everyone, T'Chaka's not thinking, "Oh man, all right, well yeah, he knows I killed his dad. He's here for revenge." No, he's like, "Oh man, okay, cool. I'm off the hook. All right, yeah, come here, my boy. Oh, yeah, come sit right next to me. This phone will be yours one day. Yeah, no, it's all good. It's fine. It's fine. And personally, I think that's what it was more than anything else. Like T'Chaka feeling a sense of guilt for killing his brother and abandoning his nephew, and so he's like, "Oh wait, I got away with this whole thing kind of scot free. Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. It's no problem. It's no problem. Yeah, no. Yeah, you're like the son I never had, because or whatever." So I think that's what it was more than anything. And again, Killmonger comes off as a lot more cunning in this version than he does in Black Panther. Black Panther is just straight up ruthlessness. I'm here to take over. Who's gonna stop me?
Yeah, and you make a good point about the guilt. I think that the guilt probably did play in it, and maybe in his mind he did think that, and for some reason Killmonger knew, but then forgave him, and that made his guilt feel better. Like, oh, he forgives me for killing his dad. He understands why I needed to do it. Oh, we're family again. It could have also been something like that as well, but I definitely think you were onto something with the guilt that he was feeling. But yeah, absolutely. All right, before we get, well, I do want to touch on the ending again, even though Mark already, we kind of covered it a little bit. But did you guys have anything else Wakanda related before we move on?
I thought it was interesting to see the Queen as the general.
Oh yeah, that was
because,
interesting.
Yeah, because in the Black Panther movie, but again, like you said, this is 8 years earlier, so possibly, yeah, she was more of a warrior queen back then, and Okoye was more kind of background in this one, and also we saw the border tribe, but we did not get Wakabe, which I was kind of surprised about.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I was expecting to see him too, but I just figured when we didn't, I was like, it's a 30-minute episode. They have to simplify.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, that's a good segue because I think that can be a problem sometimes for What If. I don't think as extreme as this one, Mark, where you were talking about how it seemed to end mid-story. But the 30-minute episodes, I think it's tough to tell some of these stories in 30 minutes. Like, I would have liked these episodes to be a good 45, 50 minutes, if I'm being honest. Because in a lot of cases, I mean, they are paralleling films, especially that first one, the Peggy Carter one, is like Captain America First Avenger, the movie, but we're going to condense it into 30 minutes. So it's a challenge. I'd like to see these episodes have been a little bit longer, but it is what it is. So I think that does present a challenge for them at times, and I think it really showed in this episode where you're right. It did feel like it ended mid-story, whereas some of the other episodes we don't necessarily get a conclusion, but like you said with the Peggy Carter one, it kind of leaves you with, so now you just assume that she's going to go off with the Nick Fury and do what Steve Rogers did in our universe, but it's not a real conclusion, but it's an ending. It's an ending to that story. And this one, you're right, it really wasn't. And I do hope we get something. I feel like that episode 9 is going to have to be longer. Like, I don't know, because apparently they're bringing in all these different episodes all into one. So I feel like that episode finale, the episode 9 is going to have to be supersized to make it work. But I don't know for a fact that that's the case or not. I just don't know how they will cram all of that in 30 minutes if they're going to bring in all of the previous stories or a lot of the previous stories into that final episode. And if it is only 30 minutes, then we definitely will not get any sort of satisfactory conclusion to this episode because they got so much to cover. So yeah, I don't know. I definitely agree with you on that, Mark. Anything else to add, either of you?
I don't know. Like, even if they do, like, would like to see a conclusion to this story, and maybe it'll make me think of this episode better, but not entirely. Like, I will still, even if this is concluded in another episode, I will still feel like this is an incomplete episode. Like, they shouldn't have ended it here. Like, we should have got maybe a bit more. Yeah.
Hold on, real quick in the chat. Brandon has asked me, "Is episode 9 listed as being longer?" No, I don't. I have no idea. I'm just saying it should be longer. I have no idea if it's supposed to be longer or not, but I hope it is. Anything to add, the Williams?
If we're talking about the ending, then yeah, I will say that it, ended kind of abruptly. We needed something a little more definitive, and since we don't know what episode 9 is going to be, obviously there's still something having to do with Ultron that we haven't seen yet. Another thing with I guess the Guardians of the Multiverse or something like that. I'm not exactly sure.
Ultron and Vision or something.
Yeah, that's the finale. The finale. I think it's something along the lines of Ultron is going to try to take over the multiverse or something, and that's when the Guardians of the Multiverse come in, and that's when we're going to get all the different characters from the different episodes coming in.
So it doesn't seem like they can conclude this.
No, it really doesn't. Story. It really does. It really doesn't.
The one thing I definitely do want to touch on though, man, this was kind of a bittersweet thing because we got more Chadwick Boseman, and oh my god, it was kind of heartbreaking when Killmonger goes into the whole afterlife kind of thing, and T'Challa is there, and he's like, "Was it really worth it?" And yeah, it was. It's like, oh, damn it, man. Damn it. Fucking cancer. These are he's appeared in 2 episodes so far?
3.
Oh my God. Yeah, and I think he's got one more appearance.
One more, because he was in he was in last week's. He was in the zombies. He was in.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. So he was in the Star-Lord one.
Star-Lord. He was in zombies, and now this one, you know, and it was. It was very eerie, you know, to have T'Challa, you know, to have T'Challa speaking from the afterlife, and it also actually being Chadwick Boseman as well. So like when that happened, I'm like, oh man, that was almost a gut punch to a certain extent, you know, because he was a really good actor. You know, I loved his performance in 42 and also Get On Up, you know, and you know, it's sad that we won't get to see him continue on as T'Challa, and you know, I'm wondering what they're gonna do with this next Black Panther movie, because they said they're not going to recast that role. Yeah, so that's gonna be weird to have a Black Panther movie without Black Panther, and especially without Chadwick Boseman. And I want to see, you know, what his last storyline was. And also, yeah, another one, man. Shout out to Norm Macdonald as well. You know, who also, he passed a couple of days ago or yesterday. Yeah, man, yeah, fucking cancer. God damn it, man. I'm sorry, man. Like, taking away
You're
some
such
of my
a
favorites.
downer, Don. You're such a downer, man. No, actually, the scene that really got me was when they showed his coffin. And then, you know, I didn't catch it at first, but then I heard that the writing on there is Wakandan for Wakanda Forever, which is, you know, means so many different things. It's also the title of the next film. But that was like, oh my God. But then I'm kind of holding off. I think I'm going to hold off like completely just being hit with the sadness until I know we get one more with Chadwick Boseman. And I do think it's that big finale we were talking about when they bring in all the different characters. I think he's going to be the Star-Lord version is coming back, I think. But I know that we do get one more Chadwick Boseman episode. And then after that, that's it. That's it for him in the MCU. And that's so it hasn't really hit me yet. But I still, the coffin scene, and the scene where we see him come back from the dead, or not come back from the dead, but you know, Killmonger visits him in the afterlife. But yeah, it's too soon. Anyways, you have anything else to add, Mark?
No, not really.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Then we do have, you know, one more episode of Chadwick, so we have that to look forward to. We have 3 more total episodes of What If left to go. So we are 2/3 of the way through, and we're 2/3 of the way through our discussions. And this has been a lot of fun. I'm happy we got 3 more episodes to discuss. So just to let you all know what's happening, next week, Darren will be back with Mark and I for his 3rd and final appearance with us for this What If season. And then the following week, which will be episode 8, Corey Shoemaker is returning for the first time since episode 1. And then for the finale, the grand finale, and let me just say, I usually like to keep my discussions to 3 people just because the more people, the longer it takes. And I can only stand talking for a certain amount of time before I have to stop. But because it's as special as the finale, Darren will have had 3 appearances. Don and Corey will have each have had 2. So to make it all even, we're gonna have Don and Corey join us for the big finale, which I do hope is a supersized episode, but I just don't know how they're going to do it in 30 minutes. But regardless of how long the episode is, we will have Dawn and Corey. So Corey will be here 2 weeks in a row because she'll be episode 8 and episode 9, and Dawn will come back for 9. And next week we've got Darren. So I'm super excited to talk about this with all of you guys. Very, very. This has been very fun, and I look forward to the last 3 episodes. Anyway, did you have something to add, Mark? I see you doing this thing. Oh, you're muted.
Okay, unmuted. All right, so one last thing I did want to say. I want to address the chat where Brandon says, "Hey, Mark, it's still a better episode than Zombies." And that's not a high bar. You're correct, but it's not a high bar. But yeah, at least it was better than Zombies. I will say that.
Yeah. And I still feel like you and I are the only ones, and Brandon too, I guess, are the only ones who felt that way, because I've heard a lot of that's the best episode of the season.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
Darren didn't. I mean, he enjoyed it, but he didn't seem that huge on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I heard a lot of people saying it was the best episode of the season. I'm just saying.
Clearly,
if you like zombies or you not like zombies. I mean, if you like zombies, you got what you wanted. But anyways, that was last week's episode. Anyways, let's go ahead and close off. Dawn, why don't you tell the good people what you're up to and where they can find you?
Well, first off, I'd like to say thank you for inviting me back here again. And can't wait for the finale. And shout out to Brandon Howells. Yes, there will be some sort of rant because that is what I do. Anyway, you can find me on Twitter at iDonWilli. That is IDONWILLI. Look for me here on YouTube at Adon of Ice and Fire. And sooner or later, I'm going to get back to making videos on my channel. If you happen to be into Game of Thrones and the upcoming series House of the Dragon, I'm going to be all over that. Also, you can catch me with Darren on these reviews, doing retrospective reviews for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And also, well, no, I think we're done with Agent Carter. Why? Listen, Disney Plus. Okay, you have a perfect opportunity to bring back Agent Carter because you're not going to be worried about the damn ratings on ABC, and you know people love Agent Carter. Bring back Agent Carter on Disney Plus. Damn you, people! All right, yeah, sooner or later you'll be able to find me with this guy here talking about The Expanse whenever that returns. And
hopefully January.
Yeah, and whenever Alyssa wants to have me back, I will be glad to come back and monopolize the chat and look way smarter than I actually am.
All right, it's a cat party. We've got
Lillian.
Mark. We got Lillian joining the party. Mark, do you want to tell people what you're up to?
So did you? First of all, I just want to mention: did you hear that they hired that actress who plays Peggy Carter? I don't know her name, but they hired her to voice Tomb Raider in a Netflix show.
That is Haley Atwell. You will respect that woman. She is beautiful. Watch it there, Mark.
I'm not as familiar, but anyway, she's hired to play Tomb Raider. Anyway, so yeah, my name is Mark. My channel's Enchantment of Eternity. At the moment, I'm covering Star Trek Lower Decks and many other Star Trek shows, as well as Star Wars, Clone Wars, and wrapping up my coverage of Better Call Saul. So be sure to check out my channel for that.
All right, and my name is Alyssa, and you are watching my channel right now. This is Alyssa Jean's Reviews. I've got you covered if you want to see anything else about Phase 4 MCU. I've covered everything in Phase 4. So check out all of that stuff. And we will continue doing these weekly discussions every Thursday at 6 Pacific time, 9 o'clock if you're over there on the East Coast. So continue to check that out. And like Mark, I am also covering Star Trek Lower Decks weekly. In fact, right as we were coming on here, my episode 6 review finished uploading. So it is now there. It exists. So if you would like to see my thoughts on the latest episode of Lower Decks, check that out. And I've got a bunch of other Star Trek content as well. And then tonight at midnight on my local time, my newest video will appear on on my channel, and that is a new series I will be doing every month called Unpopular Opinion, where I will be talking about an opinion I have that like nobody else agrees with me on. And this month's the one that will be dropping tonight is Star Trek First Contact is not a good movie. And I don't know why everyone in the world thinks it is. It is not a good movie. So that is. So I'll talk about that for about 30 minutes. So check that out. Oh, stop it, Don! You and your Voyage Home. You think Voyage Home is?
Yeah, come on.
So that's why it's called. That's why it's called Unpopular Opinion. You can see Don's reaction. That's how most people react when I say that. That's the common reaction, which is why the video is called Unpopular Opinion. So check that out. And that's it for this week. We'll see you all next week. Have a good night.